Hello, 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 hello. How are you?
Hello. Hungry. Hungry.
Hungry.
Yes, I
What
did
time is it over
not.
there?
It's 7. 7 o'clock.
Oh, oh, oh. Wait, is it Mountain Time?
Yeah, I'm in the mountain time.
Oh, okay. I wasn't really sure. I was like, I know there's not a time between Central and Eastern, so I was trying to figure out where Mountain fit into it. It's
2 hours.
so many time zones in the
There's,
United
there's only
States.
there's only 5, and we
Yeah,
only ever think about 3 of them. Well,
that's true.
yeah. There's
That's
I'm
true.
sorry.
That's
There's
why.
6.
Yeah.
Anyway, see,
What? But then not everybody sticks to. Not everybody follows daylight savings time either.
49 of the 50 states do. Only Arizona does not observe daylight
I thought
savings
it was
time.
Arizona and Utah.
No,
Really?
I double check it for you. Pretty sure it's just Arizona though.
Oh, I could have sworn it was Utah as well. But
Yeah.
okay. All right.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Hey, Janai. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you for showing up. My day has been great and I'm doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty chill day today. It's warmer outside, so the bugs are going to start coming out. That's the only thing that bothers me about warm weather. I'm like, no, if it's cold, nice 50s, no bugs.
Yeah.
But once it gets above 55 pretty consistently, all the bugs for some reason thaw out and start hatching. And
Yeah. Circle of life. Just pop on back.
where do they go in the wintertime?
Um, you know,
I
I
mean, I don't
don't
know why I would think you would have that answer, but
I don't know. I imagine that their eggs probably just freeze. I mean, because like a lot of those insects, they don't really have long lifespans.
true.
So typically what they do is they'll just like lay their eggs right before they die. And so their eggs are what are popping up after the fact.
Talk about a legacy. Mm. I like because fish freeze in the lake until the lake unthaws, or they freeze in the water until the water unthaws.
Yeah.
But I wonder where bugs can they just stay wherever they are?
I don't know that fish really freeze. I mean, it'd have to be a small lake for them to actually freeze because normally it's just like the top few inches that freeze. That's how you see people go ice fishing and stuff because the fish are actually still, in there underneath swimming around. Just the first couple inches are frozen.
That's a good point because the water does move pretty quickly underneath.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've seen way too many movies to see that. I don't want to be on ice at all because if you miss the hole and then you're just gone.
Yeah, I'm not really big onto walking on the frozen lakes. It's not my thing.
No, I don't need that in my life.
Nope.
Hey, really, TT. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to Take a Space podcast. We're live with our guest this week, Desmond. Unfortunately, Kayla will not be joining us this week. Once we get once she gets her work schedule done, maybe hopefully in the future she'll be able to come back. But until then, you get to see my lovely face. Thank you, Desmond, for being here.
I have never done a live before.
Oh, thank you for being the first. Oh,
I mean, I technically did like my own live on Instagram, but it was one time and it was for like 5 minutes. So, I'm basically a live version. What I'm trying to say.
oh.
What I'm trying to say. Never done it on YouTube, that's for sure.
Well, I
Yeah.
absolutely appreciate you. I thank you for coming on the live. I know before your work schedule wouldn't allow you to,
No.
yeah, but now you're here. So, oh, my dad's here. Hey, Dad, welcome. Appreciate you. My dad enjoyed the episode so much he had to call me to tell me that you are a very well-spoken, sharp young man.
Oh, thank
You
you.
you really do your research and know your stuff. He wanted the link to your show
Oh,
so he
okay.
can listen to more of you. And I was like, I was on the show too. I was there. Like, I know I said some things. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure I was there. I'm sure I was on the show with you. But yes, he spoke very highly of you and said that it was a really great show.
Well, I'm sure that people will say the same thing about you, because they're gonna get to hear you 2 times in a row, coming up pretty soon here. Because
Oh, when do those episodes drop?
you know, I almost messaged you last week and told you when they were going to come out, but then I didn't because I didn't want to have to tell you that it was going to come out a certain day and then have to go and change that date.
Ah,
So things are kind of in flux right now because I ended up landing that interview with that
oh,
candidate.
nice.
I met with them yesterday, and we it was like the first like conversation where I could like go through like what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So I sat down with them for like an hour, and we talked about just what the questions were going to be.
Hmm.
And so basically, he said he was going to get back to me tomorrow, and he'll tell me when he can meet in March. And then he asked me if I could release the episode as soon as possible after we record it.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's
Okay.
why I'm kind of like, I don't know just right now because I'm gonna release his thing first, but then after I release his, like your episodes will come right after him.
Oh, cool. Yes. I
Or they might
did
come before him. I'm not sure. It's all up in the air right now. Yeah. So
I did 2 episodes with you this time around, and I did an episode with you previously. Um, wait, did we record that for my show or your show?
no, no, you have not been on my show yet,
Oh,
but my
okay.
audience
Okay.
will learn about you soon.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
I feel so honored. I feel you fit 49 states, or you at 50 states?
50 now.
Yeah.
Took a while to get South Dakota, but I got them.
They were the holdout. Oh,
Oh, I was going after it too. I told Lynette about my little game plan.
yeah.
Um, I think it was like back in like September. I realized that I was at like 37 states, and I just got it in my head that I wanted to get all 50. I don't know. I just turned it into almost like a game kind of because like a lot of people on Twitter, they'll put like their location in their bio. And so
Right.
I started just following people who were in the states that hadn't listened to me yet. And whenever someone would follow me back, I'd be like, "Hey, you want to check out my podcast? Random person in West Virginia, you want to help me out?"
Listen, just all you guys just let it play. Just hit play. Just let it
Yeah,
play.
just hit play one time.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I need you to do. Just stream it in your state. I appreciate it. Hey
Yeah,
Jocelyn, welcome. So this week we talked about the importance of like holding your government accountable, making sure that you not only go vote, because voting is a key part of it, but just when voting is over and now we have to live regular life again
yeah,
after all the political games have been played and all that other madness, we have to start getting in the process of, okay, you said you would do X. Can we get a date now of when that'll get done? What are some
yeah.
of your takeaways from what because we also talked about Neuralink and our DNA, our bodies being hooked up to the internet and
Right, right.
having other people like have access to our, oh my goodness, it's weird to think about, like just turn into a
Yes.
random cyborg. Like, yeah, some kid who played Xbox now has access to everything that my body can do because of Neuralink. Great.
Yeah. Uh God, which one do you want me to address first?
Well, what are some of your key takeaways about the episode that we did?
Every time that I come on, and we have a conversation, the conversation, I feel like it always goes in many different directions. And,
Absolutely.
I think you're a great conversationalist. I love coming on your show. Um, but this conversation in particular, it's just, I mean, especially when you refer to like um election accountability, following up with politicians after they, promise you this, that, and the third. A lot of that work is annoying as hell. I mean, I feel like I'm in the middle of that work right now because we are watching just like a couple hours ago. maybe even less. I'm not sure. I was actually trying to fact check this right as we were coming on. Um, they are now saying that they're not going to put the $15 minimum wage increase into the COVID relief bill.
Yeah.
And this was something that Biden swore up and down that he was going to do and that he was going to fight for. And he said that he believed that it strongly affected people of color. And he went out of his way to say things like, they helped get me elected, so I'm going to show up for them. Because the one thing that when he went to go speak with Representative Clyburn of South Carolina, one of the things that he promised when he won that South Carolina primary almost a year ago today was that, he understood, or he said he claimed to understand the fact that people only showed up in South Carolina once every 4 years, and the people of that state felt like they were just being used for their vote. Like, you just show up here once every 4 years, ask for our vote, then don't do jack once you get in office.
Right.
And he said that he wouldn't be that type of president. And here he is doing basically nothing to try to like raise the minimum wage when he knows how much it affects people of color all over this country. And so, the real question is now is like basically how to embarrass him, because I feel like it's definitely in order. I mean, at the very end of the day, he could have at least tried to fight harder to make sure that this thing was going to get passed, and he's done basically nothing. He's gone on several interviews and said that he's like, oh, well, I just don't think that we're going to be able to raise the minimum wage. Oh, well.
Yeah. And that's kind of, well, it's not kind of, it's really disheartening when that's your number one platform. This is what people are looking for. This is what people want. You represent change. You represent, hopefully, a lot of people are saying, return to normalcy or even progress, right? But I mean, I have seen him as more of a placeholder, so that we just didn't have to keep going down the path that we were on. But it's really disheartening to know that even though there was whispers about, hey, it may be taken out as a part of a lot of other things he was taking out of the bill unnecessarily, while he was cutting so many things, saying that he was, I can't get it passed if I have this in there, have that in there, all the things that he promised and said, well, we just can't do it without any explanation, and no one, and we haven't really shown up to really say, hey, like, yes, this is absolutely necessary. We have to have this in the bill. We need to hold you accountable and say, look, we're putting your feet to the fire. You said that you would do this. Why isn't it getting done?
Exactly. And let me make a really, really terrible analogy for a second, because it's going to sound really bad what I'm about to say.
Oh
But,
boy.
but Donald Trump promised his people a wall. And a lot of those people voted for him because he promised them a wall. And then he tried his heart out to get said wall. Everyone told him he was crazy, but he wouldn't shut up about that damn wall. And then when everyone in government told him he couldn't have that wall, he raided money out of FEMA to start building that wall. Now, it was a shitty wall. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be cursing on your live. But he started building that wall. And so all I'm trying to say is building the wall was a really dumb thing, but Donald Trump didn't let some stupid thing stop him from trying to build his wall. All I'm trying to say is, Biden, you could at least do a little bit extra to fight for a minimum wage increase, because we haven't had one since 2009. And don't tell me you actually care about these issues when you literally talk about it while you're on the campaign trail. And then once you sit down in the Oval Office, you're like, well, sorry, but, we'll try again, maybe in the future, maybe not. I don't know. Well, talk to me later about it.
Right. And now I'm not really sure what his agenda is.
Exactly.
If you are not going to stick to what your campaign promises were, then what is your agenda exactly? What are you attempting to do here? Because he ran a lot on I was the vice president in Obama's administration. Okay. And what? What are you going to do? What are you going to get back to? It's fine that you sign all these executive orders and things like that, but people still are out of work. People still are, hungry, out of trying to figure out whether or not they're going to be able to stay or if they're going to be evicted because they don't have work, or if they're going to be out on the street, things like that. At some point, there has to be, I mean, because I don't think that we should have another insurrection. I don't think that's necessary. But at some point, the politicians need to be held accountable for what they say they're going to do and when they don't do it.
Yeah, and there's a long time between now and the next time that we're going to have a chance to capitalize on this moment. But the biggest answer is really the primaries.
Mm-hmm.
The primaries are a huge issue in our country because so many people don't show up for them. I mean, in our country, when I look at the data, it literally is almost like a 50% drop off, if not more than 50% drop off of people who vote in primaries versus people who vote in the general election. And it's people just kind of like, well, I'm voting blue no matter who, or I'm voting red no matter what kind of thing. That's the reason why these people get to stay in office and basically face no accountability ever. Is
Right.
because when we have the chance to vote them out, we're just like, oh, well, as long as you'll keep the other party from doing what they want to do, I guess I'll be okay with you basically not doing anything once you get there. It's our, indifference to their nonsense that keeps them in power. And that's what needs to change, is us letting them off the hook so much,
I
making
need to write that
excuses for
down.
them.
Hold on. I need to write that down. Because that was pretty good. Hey Rachel, while I'm writing that down, welcome. Appreciate you.
But yeah, that's just basically how I feel about this. I mean, we are living in a time right now where if you just rewind the clock just a few months ago, Joe Biden was sitting here telling us that we are living in the most existential moment in human history. And he won the presidency claiming that we were in the most existential moment in human history. And then he takes the office in that moment that he, deemed the biggest moment in history. And since he's been there, he's basically just taking a lot of naps. I mean, he signs some executive orders and that's great and all, but a lot of them were just undoing what Trump did. That's not
Right.
really taking a whole lot of thought capital. I mean, he had them all lined up the day he got to office, which means that he was already ready to do all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's cool that you undid a lot of things that Trump did to the country. That's great and all, but going back to 2016 isn't helping us go forward. There's been a lot of problems that have happened in the country since then. There was a lot of problems in the country at that time. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Enough people were angry in 2016 that Trump got elected in the first place. Let's not act like we didn't have issues.
Right. And now it's actually a little bit more scary because we're going back past 2016 with all of these voter qualifications.
Yes, I've seen them.
So like in the state that I'm currently in North Carolina, they're going to, what is the word? Not implicate. What's the word? Implement. Thank you. They're going to implement the voter ID. So it's not just having a driver's license. It's not having a state ID. They're going to implement having a voter ID in order to vote. If you don't have a voter ID, you can still vote, but they have to verify that you actually have one before your vote can count. In other states, you can't vote. You can't register same day. They're rolling back, especially in the red states, the ability to vote by mail, citing that, or they're proposing, these are bills that are being proposed. They're proposing to roll back mail-in ballots and who's able to mail in their ballots because voter fraud. That's what they're saying. They're just citing major voter fraud without backing any of the information. So for those who are listening, I would hope that regardless of whatever your state asks, make sure that you do it so that you can go vote. This actually brings us to one of our first questions of the night. How often do you vote?
I like the little graphic down there at the bottom. You got to show me how to do all this stuff. How often do I vote? Like, how often do I think people should vote, or how often do I vote?
How often do you vote?
Almost every single time that I get a ballot in the mail. Thankfully, Montana's always had It's always had really good, just like mail-in ballot, situations. I've been voting by mail every single election since I was 18. I've actually never stood in line to vote in my life. Um, I mean, basically every time that I get something mailed to me, I vote. Just I think there's been a couple times that I haven't voted recently, but they've been just a couple different local initiatives that I honestly didn't care about. But no, it doesn't really happen that often, to be honest with you. I think I could think of 3 times in my life where I didn't vote.
Oh, okay. So I especially when I'm staying in a place longer than a year,
Yeah,
I try to make sure that I'm made aware of what's going on because my vote could potentially change, like school districts funding, or political funding, police funding, or even just how structurally some things are. And so because I move around a lot, it's I try to make sure that if I'm going to be a resident, that I try to vote in local and federal elections. My dad says accountability. I totally agree. We don't need window dressing while nothing is getting done. Yes, it's very true.
yeah,
Janae says, politically or like vote on what's for dinner? Politically. Politically. I mean, you can always vote on what's for dinner, but how often do you vote politically in elections? And I know a lot of, especially young people, um, don't know about like midterms or voting for your sheriffs or your judges or what are the it's not the public defense. What are they called? Are they district attorneys?
yeah,
Yeah, district attorneys. So there's a lot of people who don't know that. Hey, you vote these people in office. They're there to not only uphold the law, but they can essentially change how laws are affected, like throughout whatever period of time. So just
yeah.
like people were like, oh, Kamala Harris did Vice President Kamala Harris had the whole locking people up, all the felons and this and that in 94 or whatever. Not 94, 92, 94, 92. I believe it was in the 90s. But people voted on that. She just didn't do it just because she wanted to do it. People
Yeah,
actually voted on it and said, yes, we want a three strikes law.
right.
So, you can blame it on a politician, but if that politician puts in a bill and it has enough support, like yourselves, the citizens of the world or the United States, wherever you are, I mean, you have to vote. You have to essentially change it. You can't get mad at something that a politician was able to do if you are not willing to take part in elections.
That's absolutely true. I mean, there's it's a hard thing to manage because on one hand, like, yeah, you have to be involved in the political process, but as somebody who wants to be involved in the political process, they don't make it easy on you. And so like I can imagine for someone who's kind of like lukewarm or someone who's just like listen, I'm not really trying to be here right now. Like the system is more or less designed to dissuade you from being a part of it, you
True.
know,
Yeah.
especially as you get closer and closer to the local level, which are the politics that affect you the most, right? And I remember just this past cycle trying to go through and do any kind of research on who is my sheriff, who is my district attorney, who is the state representative who represents me, who is my state senator, what do state senators do, like like all of these types of little things, and I was just like, I was having so much of a hard time just finding out basic information about the people in this state in my community who represent me, and I'm just like, how is anyone supposed to make an informed decision on voting for these people when we don't have any information on them? They're just names on paper. Like I don't
Right.
know who I'm choosing between. I just have bubble A and bubble B. Am I supposed to be like going off of which name I like better? I mean, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Or whoever had the better looking mailer who came in my mailbox,
Oh,
who didn't mail.
this one had pictures and this one only had words. I think I'm gonna vote for this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like honestly, and I'm sure this is different on a state by state level, but you know, there needs to be better access of information because I feel like there's not the ability to be as informed to vote right now, which I would have to assume is a problem for some people. I mean, I know it's a problem for me. I like to be informed when I make a decision, and I would, with certain people, I'm just like, okay, well, I hope this person's good. I don't know anything about them. I don't even know what they look like. Couldn't even find a picture of some of these people.
Yeah. I think that people play on our um inability to make the connection with who they are, what they're doing, or where they're going, unless they like make the news for visiting Tiger King's like playground or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard, I think, way harder than it should be to locate and understand who these people are and what they do. And not only what is within their realm of power, but what do they stand for? What are they running on? Are they actually like holding office because they're bored? They have like free time? Or are they really trying to effectively change things for good in the community?
Right.
Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've probably heard the mayor's name of this city 3 times in the last year and a half that I've been here.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you what it is.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, I actually just found out recently just how much mayors do in a city. I mean, that was another question I had. I was just like, I mean, I know in theory what a mayor does, but I don't know like actual details, like what specifically is the day-to-day life of a mayor look like? Like, what are all of the things that they actually have authority over? And so when I was interviewing that candidate recently, I asked him, I was just like, like, what do you do? Like, cause I mean, I know like in general, like you're the head of this community, but like, what does that mean?
Right.
And I think the thing that, struck me the most was that the mayor in this particular community has complete oversight over the budget for the whole city. And so, however many hundreds of millions or billions of dollars that may be for your city, like your mayor is in charge of just like making sure like that, where all the dollars go. So they can choose how much money goes to the police department, how much money goes to the fire department, how much money goes to health and human services, like what roads get worked on and what roads don't get worked on. Like the mayor's office has control over all of that. So, needless to say, if your city doesn't look that great, then get your mayor out of there.
Yeah. I mean, locate who your mayor is first. Locate that person first. I don't know why it's so hard to locate these people, but for whatever reason, they just stay hidden and just say, "Oh, I'm running," and they win on like the 15 senior citizens who have time and energy to go down there and vote, and everybody else is kind of left out in the dark, and then they wonder why things are changing.
Yeah.
But this is asking those questions about like what the mayor does or what your local politicians do or what offices they hold that effectively can change the course of your community or keep it going down whatever path it's in. Because I mean, some people like to coast and just like, we don't need change. We've had the same thing for the last 15, 20 years. Let's not change anything. So what issues are important to you during an election?
Every election is different. I mean, this was the lowest bar I've ever had before. This was the lowest bar I've ever had before. And let's be fair to the situation here. I mean, I'm 30 years old, so I've only been able to vote in 4 general elections so far. So this was my 4th one. And yeah, I definitely had my lowest bar ever this time. I was like, any human being not named Donald Trump, sign. That was basically it. Like I remember doing an episode, this is back like in the beginning of my podcast. My podcast was way worse back then. Don't listen to those episodes. But I remember doing an episode back then and I was talking about Joe Biden being the Democratic nominee. And I was just like, I cannot believe that I'm going to spend the next few months talking about why we should vote for Joe Biden, because honestly, like there's just nothing about him that made me really excited.
True.
But I knew that getting Trump out of office was the top priority. And so basically Biden just had to just be a person who was running against Donald Trump, and that was good enough for me. But like in a normal election, like I think what you would want, and I'm not gonna talk about the past because the country's changed so much, but let's talk about the future. Um, Going forward, what I want to see in an election, what I'm going to be voting on, is a politician who actually wants to improve the lives of people. You know,
Yes.
the most simple thing that you could possibly think of. But, too often we have people who try to come into the political sphere who lie straight to our face and try to convince us that we're not actually seeing the world the way that we're actually seeing it, and trying to
Right.
gaslight people into voting for them by, saying that like, oh, well, if we do this minuscule thing, it's going to improve your lives. It's like, no, just stop. I want someone to tell me the truth and to actually try to do something to help people, because I feel as though we are constantly putting people into office who actually have no desire whatsoever to help anyone.
Yeah,
You know?
they come with their own personal vendetta of how can I placate to the people who've helped me get here, who are
Yeah.
closest to me, without actually having to do work.
No,
Like,
there's no work being done right now. I mean, we are going through, like, again, with the $15 minimum wage issue. I mean,
yeah,
we are consistently working harder for less money. The price of everything is going up in our country, and we're not being compensated for it. People on the right will tell you that, if we raise the minimum wage, that businesses will just send more jobs offshore, but they're already sending jobs offshore. So I mean, like, it,
critical thinking, ask the
yeah,
questions.
they're already
Yes.
sending jobs offshore. So I mean, like, I don't understand what they're talking about here. And they're like, oh, we just need, people on the right will say we just got to get government off of our backs, and then the companies will do more. And it's like, the government's already off their back. What are you talking about? And they're already not doing anything. I
I'm-
just, yeah. And Democrats, they say all the right things, but when they get in office, they do jack. So I'm just like, I don't know what exactly needs to change, but I know that us all staying silent about it is definitely not going to be part of the solution.
Very true. Um, let's see. Hey, Lynette. Uh, let's see. Janae says, very well said. Honesty too much to ask for in a candidate.
No,
I feel like that's the baseline. That should
it
be like
should be.
the bare minimum. Like, there's a lot of things because you don't want to cause like mass hysteria that you shouldn't be forthcoming with, but you could be real about the situation.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like you could absolutely be real about the situation and where we are. If you say, well, minimum wages, I don't forgot the federal minimum wage. What is it, seven and a quarter?
725.
Yeah, so 7.25 is the federal minimum wage. $15 is would be cool to start off with, so that people can actually afford rent. They can actually afford food. They can actually afford to keep their lights on. But even if you said, okay, 15 is kind of like a too high of a goal. Let's shoot for 10. And if we can get 15, great. But let's shoot for 10 so that we can actually move the needle a little bit in the direction that it needs to go.
Yeah,
But to say, well, we're going to shoot for 15, and then because we can't hit 15, we're not going to do it at all, then that kind of puts a lot of people in the same space of, why do I vote? Why do I even try? Why do I do this? Like, I'm going to go to Germany, or I'm going to go and live in Europe, or I'm moving to New Zealand or something like that. And it's like, yeah, you can absolutely flee the country. You can actually do that. It doesn't fix the problem, though.
no, I mean, there's plenty of people. Here's the thing. I feel like if we rewind the clock like 10 years ago, there was basically no one in Congress that ever actually fought for these issues. But now there's probably like 15 or 20. And I know that sounds like a really low number, but they're trickling in more and more, because I think more and more are seeing that there is a space for them now. I mean,
Yeah.
Cori Bush, for instance, comes to mind, who just got elected out of St. Louis. And I think she said it best. She was saying that a $15 minimum wage is basically just taking us from starvation to being able to pay bills, you know? And
Exactly.
the way that they're trying to implement it would be incrementally anyway. So it wasn't like going straight from 725 to 15 in one shot. It was like 950 next year, then $11 the year after that, then 1250 the year after that. So it was going to be incremental anyway. And
Yeah.
so it wouldn't like harm businesses really that much that way because they'd be able to adjust to it every year, which is what a lot of states are doing anyway. Like states like Arizona, Arkansas. Arkansas is like minimum wage is $11 an hour right now. You know what I'm saying? Like they've been
I'm
increasing.
sorry. In
Yeah.
Arkansas?
In Arkansas, yeah.
Wait a minute. What?
Arkansas's minimum wage is $11 an hour. All these states are doing it anyway. There's only like it's about like half the country that's keeping the minimum wage at 725. The other half of the country has already on the state level been popping theirs up, and they've been doing it incrementally, like year after year, like extra dollar, extra dollar, extra dollar. You know, so it's not like it can't be done. You know, so like I was saying before, primary time, let's get some of these more honest politicians to run against these people who ain't doing anything and just get those people out. Anyone who's not willing to fight for our lives to be better, get them out. Just get them out.
Lynette has a question.
I'm ready.
How did you get Desmond to show his face on Facebook Live?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. I'm out of here.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
You are hilarious. He's always incognito, just like no.
Yeah.
Let's see. My dad says, where's the fight for the people? It's unfortunate the homeless situation has gotten into generations now. Where's the stimulus package? I feel like even with the, I mean, because first, Dad, that was a lot. Okay, there's a lot in there that you just said. I'll answer it like this. I think people have fight in them, but they don't know what to do with it or where to go. And so as disjointed as we are, it's not even this generation, but we don't have leaders that we really look to as mentors and respect to follow and say, this is where we need to take the fight as a uniformed effort to do. Even in the Black Lives Matter protests, everybody was saying, you shouldn't protest like this, or we shouldn't do this. Don't go out in the streets. We should do petitions. There's not a joint effort to know where to put the fight. To your second point, I feel like homelessness is a situation that is more so of a pandemic, especially now with the police in different states being told that the homeless people need to not have camps. They can't be in certain places. Their stuff is being thrown out, things like that. But there are communities now that are being built, like in it's a middle America state. I can't remember what state it is in. Is it Utah?
It's Utah.
Where they're building the tiny homes?
Yep.
Yes. So they're building tiny homes to try to help fix that. It doesn't help that other states, I want to say is it Nevada, that put their homeless people on buses and take them to LA. I don't know if that's Nevada. Still exactly happening, but I feel like it is because nobody's stopping them. Let's be real. Nobody's stopping them. Everybody wants to move them and pass the buck, but nobody actually wants to, let me get in there and figure out how to get this person back on their feet. And the stimulus package, that's what we talked about, the whole thing, that whole bill. I feel like that bill is going to be so chopped up, we're not going to recognize it by the time it's passed. I don't know where all the money's going to go, even though he said that he's not backing down from the 1.9. I don't feel like that's going to happen.
The fight for the people, it's happening all over the country. I mean, there's like little glimmers of hope that keep popping up. Like I was saying before, like there's not that many people in Congress that, like, when I evaluate them, that I feel like they actually want to fight for what's going on in the country. But
Mhm.
there's definitely more people fighting than there used to be. I think that a lot of them are realizing how much power they have on social media. For instance, Twitter comes to mind, and they're realizing just how many people are talking about these issues online. And I think some more people feel like they actually have the permission to go against like the mainstream of the party. Because I feel like the traditional Democrats who have power in the party right now, they're just used to just saying Republicans are bad and then not doing jack. But there's some like newer Democrats in the party who actually like are okay with saying that Republicans are bad and trying to do stuff. It's a miracle, right? And so there's not that many of them, but there's a few names to keep track of. You've heard of AOC. Some people have heard of like people like Jamal Bowman, Rashida Tlaib, Corey Bush, Raphael Warnock, who just came in from Georgia. He's been coming in with a lot of plans so far. I mean, there's definitely some people on the rise there. I think we just got to keep sending people like that into Congress and hopefully eventually wash out some of those people who are used to just collecting checks and not doing anything. So
Exactly.
it's in our apathy that those people actually thrive the way that they do. So we can't let that really take root. The homeless situation, like kind of like you were saying, yeah, certain communities are taking a hold of trying to deal with the issue because obviously no one on the national level is doing enough about it. But the candidate that I just interviewed, who's running for mayor here in my city, he wants to possibly implement something that they're doing down in Utah, like you were talking about. I think that's going to be a part of his platform, but he told me that he'd give me more details about it when I do my episode with him. So I'm kind of waiting to see exactly what his plan is for our community because we have homeless encampments here in Missoula too. And that stimulus package, they didn't do a good enough job explaining why that was going to take so long. Because this actually isn't them dragging their feet in this particular case. Because basically, because they're trying to do it through this process called reconciliation. Are you familiar with it, Leah?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so budget reconciliation is what they're trying to do right now. So typically, whenever you bring a bill to the Senate, it needs 60 votes to pass. Now, they knew they weren't going to get anything from Republicans, right? So there's another way to get things passed in the Senate called budget reconciliation, where you can pass a bill through only 51 votes. And so that's what they're going to try to do. But the problem is that to do it through that process, it takes like a few weeks to actually get it to the point where you can vote on it. So they've been doing that for a couple weeks now, and I think they're just now about to vote on it next week. So it was always going to take a few weeks, but I don't think they did a good enough job explaining that to the American people that it wasn't going to be something they could do right away. Because they kind of lied to everybody and said that if you vote for Warnock and Ossoff in Georgia, we'll have your stimulus checks out to you immediately. Well, that was a damn lie because it was never going to be immediately because it takes weeks just to get through the reconciliation process. So they messed up that messaging, and that's on them for sure.
No, I mean, I feel like if they would have at least tried to explain, because you know how we're as a culture in the Americas, we are all about sound bites and
Yeah.
hearing tidbits here and there, and then just regurgitating what we hear on our favorite news stations. But even if they would have tried a little bit, I think the message would have gotten clear that this wouldn't have happened immediately. It's not something that, people every other day on Twitter, hey, Joe, where's the stimulus package? But it's an
Right.
understood like, hey, this like many other things is going to be a process.
Yeah. I mean, I just explained it in 2 minutes. They could have done it.
They could have, but do they want us to know? Probably not.
I mean,
Hey, the doghouse, welcome to the live. Lynette says the system is working exactly how it's supposed to make the rich richer. If everyone had the same opportunities, then where would the superiority lie?
yeah, I mean, she's not wrong. And again, I think what I said earlier, like our like collective apathy is only going to keep that system in place longer. I mean, the only reason we ever see change is because people are willing to fight for it. That day that we stop fighting for it is the day that it actually will get worse because something that we don't want to acknowledge, but it can actually get worse. So, and I'm not going to sit back and keep my mouth shut anymore.
Yeah, and actually, my sister Shonda agrees with you. Yes, we have to show them our support by contacting their offices and letting them know we agree or disagree. And calling your local political party or offices, the people who are in office in charge of making sure that your state, your city is run how it's supposed to, especially if you have kids in school or are paying child support or getting food
Mhm.
stamps or whatever. If you are benefiting, and if you're living in any part of the United States, if you're benefiting from any social programs, roads, streetlights, whatever it is, HOAs, you need to call into your local offices and let them know how you feel about certain things. It's going to take a little bit of research to find out who's who, what's what, what's in their power, but get into the habit of it. It was actually my sister who started, when I started seeing her post more and more, not just in this election, but before, I think it was right before the primaries happened, there were more political posts that she was doing in her stories, which made me go, I wonder what we're doing here. And just seeing someone else like question it or make sure that the information is spread
Yes.
about certain things that are going on, certain petitions that we could sign, that makes it so much better to get someone else involved. And even though we're not even in the same state, but that's another person doing research in their state. So I absolutely agree that you should absolutely contact your politicians.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, that's like one of the biggest reasons why I decided to even start my podcast in the first place was because we need to share information. Like the biggest, like, not the biggest, I'm sorry, but one of the biggest lies in our country is that we shouldn't talk about politics. I mean, we heard that our whole lives. Don't talk
Yeah.
about religion or politics, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's not talking about politics that kind of like created the situation that we're all in right now. We're like
Absolutely.
no one really knows what's going on. No one knows who their officials are. No one understands how the system works, and everyone's always trying to figure out why everything's so messed up. Well, it's like
Right.
if you don't know anything, then how can we actually put ourselves in position to change what's messed up? Because at the end of the day, we have to realize that our collective power is the most powerful thing in this country. And sometimes we forget that because we're so caught up thinking that we're just one vote, so we can't change anything.
Yeah, and it was actually this is why I need to write these things down. I
Oh,
was
sorry.
just reading a news article, and one of the secretaries of state, I forgot what state it was, but they had a bill that stated that if if the secretary of state, or if the politicians didn't agree with how the vote ended, with however the state voted, popular vote or the electoral college, because some states wanting to move from the electoral college system, the secretary of state can just go in and change it to whatever vote that they want. And it's like, if y'all go vote, that can't happen. Y'all, they put that in a bill so that it could be voted on. Once I find out the state, I'll post about it tomorrow. I promise you. But
Listen, I'm just
these are
gonna assume
things.
that that's a red state. I'm just
It's
gonna go out
absolutely
there.
a red state.
I'm just gonna
It's
assume.
absolutely a red state. I want to say it's in the north though, but I'll double check. And
Sounds like South Dakota. That's why they were the last state to look at my podcast.
but having
Yeah.
the just being able to exercise the ability to vote if you have it, because there's so many people who have become disenfranchised and they can't vote,
Yeah.
unfortunately, even though they pay taxes. But it's important that you exercise your right to vote, and then hold these people accountable when they're in office. Like, hey, you said these schools were going to get more funding. The funding did not go to the schools. Let's find out how to get you out of office if you're not going to do what you said you were going to do.
Right. I mean,
Like
at the end of the
that's
day, like,
legitimately what it is.
yeah, I mean, these people care about being in office more than anything. If they feel that's threatened, they'll do all kinds of backflips.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All kinds.
Let's see. Honey T says, yes, and let them know that what we voted for is not being followed through on. Yes, I think that
Exactly.
that's exactly what you need to let them know. And if they get enough calls into their office about it, they're going to have to do something about it.
Yeah.
I
I
mean, they
mean,
have to, because they're like you said, they're going to think like, oh snap, I can't run again.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, these people care about nothing more than staying in office. Like the end. If they
Yeah.
ever feel threatened on that level, they will find all kinds of courage that you didn't know that they had. You know, all kinds. I promise you.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know what? Let me go ahead and make that happen for the school system. That's right. We sure did say that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
This
it's
is.
a damn joke though. I mean, we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to. Right? Like that's like that is your job anyway, right?
Right.
That is your job anyway, but again, these people have been able to operate like this for so long because so many people stay quiet, and I'm definitely not going to stay quiet. That ain't happening.
Yeah. Because I mean, when you have, I don't like the idea of career politicians,
No, term limits need to be
because
a thing.
absolutely the whole career politicians thing and is exactly the reason why we have what we have, because those things are passed down generation to generation. Oh, my father was one and my grandfather was one, and it's like, this is why nothing changes, because you just do things to benefit you. So while Congress's salaries are protected, while politicians in local areas, their salaries are protected, we have
Yeah.
people who are losing their jobs left and right. People are still working for $2-3 an hour as in the quote unquote low skilled workers as waitresses and whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I will never ever understand that. But let a congressperson's six-figure salary that they did nothing on because they're constantly in recess because they can't get
Right.
their lives together.
How many weeks out of the year are they not even they're not even doing anything. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have the exact number in front of me, but like there is just so often where they're just not even doing jack. Like they're just like literally cashing in. They got the best healthcare in the country
Oh,
and they
absolutely.
get paid six figures. And the biggest crime of all is that these people are allowed to see information about the economy before anybody else does, and they're allowed to buy stocks. How
Yes.
are you allowed to buy stocks when you know exactly whether or not what you are going to do is going to impact that stock? You know how crazy that is? Nancy Pelosi just bought Tesla stock knowing that she was about to pass a bill that was going to give tax credits to Tesla. How crazy is that?
I
You know what I'm
just
saying? Like that is wild. That is wild that actually legal. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that's not going to change until we get those corrupt people out of office. Just,
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that and change is incremental. And I
yeah.
agree, really, TT. State senators just hopping on planes to go to Cancun
Look, Ted
to
Cruz.
drop off their daughter and
Look,
friends.
Ted Cruz is a stain on this country. He is a stain.
Oh
Like there is
my
nothing.
gosh.
There is nothing good about Ted Cruz. And I'm not over here trying to say that all Republicans are bad, but
No, he doesn't do
Ted
anything
Cruz
redeemable.
Ted Cruz has not one good thing you can say about him. There's nothing. There's nothing there.
I just
No.
it's just he's not redeemable in the least.
No. People in Texas got
Shonda
to vote him
says
out.
it's all rigged. And Lynette says, come through with the facts, Don Lemon.
Look, Don Lemon got a lot of bags under his eyes. Don't tell me that I look that like that just yet. Okay.
Oh, oh no. Oh no. But yeah, I think that it's not all doom and gloom. There's absolutely things that you can do to effectively change. And even if change is not, I mean, because no good change, no lasting change happens overnight.
No.
It's incremental. Just like we're starting to see the tides change in Congress, we're starting to see the tides change in the Senate. Like, we have to keep going. We have to keep making sure that the area that you live in is fought for. Just like your neighbors, you always got that nosy neighbor walking around, noticing everything, reporting back. Hey, I know you came home late 5 times last week. You all right? You good? What's going on? But you want to make sure that your politicians are held accountable, that you are voting, because it's literally the best defense that we have against holding people who are not doing anything in office to get them out.
Yeah.
If we can rally enough people around us, and you don't even need the whole city. You just get some people with some loud enough voices to start making noise about something, because most of us are still sitting at home. We have all the time in the world. We can get loud about some stuff, post something on Twitter, get mad about it. Somebody will make it go viral. We can start seeing some changes. But in all honesty, just being aware, especially when these next votes are coming out, when they start putting these bills out about rolling back the ability to vote, what you need to vote, and other bills in your area, stay on top of that. Know who's running. Figure out, homework of the week. Figure out who your mayor is. I grew up in Hercules, California. Don't even know who the mayor is.
Yep.
Like, none of my life have I ever known who the mayor of Hercules is.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I've been interested in recently. But sometimes it feels like things aren't getting better, but things definitely are getting better. I know that people in the LGBTQ community probably feel that way today, where they got the that equity bill passed. Because I mean, all you have to do is go back 10 years, and the president of the United States was saying that he didn't believe that gay people should even be allowed to get married.
Yeah, like,
I mean, and that president was Barack Obama.
Just
saying.
Okay. Yes.
Just saying.
No. Okay. Because my sister just posted in 2 different accounts, like 4 different times, and I'm like, which one am I supposed? So we're gonna do all of them.
Okay.
Poor snowflake probably looking for another place of residence voluntarily. Okay, Ted Cruz. Yeah, talk about Ted Cruz. There's strength in numbers. Absolutely.
Yes.
Folks do not move or push to make changes until they are impacted by it. That is very true. People have to make some kind of connection. Like, when something happens, they're like, oh, I too have a sister. I too have a mother. Like, no, like, that person is a person and they're being affected by whatever's happening.
Right.
Like, show some empathy.
I want to pause on that one really quick, though, because I feel like the one thing that I would say to people is that when we looked at all those protests that happened last summer,
Mm-hmm.
The one thing to remember is that if you don't like how laws are being carried out, in your community, just know that your district attorney in your community gets elected, and you can vote that person out. So, I mean, like, if you were someone who lived in Louisville, for instance, and you didn't like the fact that those cops did not get charged for killing Breonna Taylor, you can vote the district attorney of Louisville out of office next election. So, like, you have that kind of power. So just, local politics, definitely probably the things you can change the most. So
yeah,
you should all be aware of things like that for sure.
And that's going to lead to the changes that we see on a federal level, because when we start affecting things on the local level and start actually trying to make better impacts, especially for the next generation coming up, I think that people feel disarmed, like they don't have a voice or they don't have a meaning, and they go vote, but for what? But actually, like, letting this next generation see us effectively change by not just voting, but going to the school board meetings. I mean, I don't have any children, but if I did, I would absolutely be at the school board meetings, because I want to know, what are you spending money on? Where is this going? How come my kids don't have supplies? Why do I have to buy supplies for all 30 students of the class, like, that you should be supporting? Like, I don't understand.
Right.
But these are things that you can actually do to impact your own community. Right. But I want to thank everybody for joining here today. This is one of the most people. This is live one of some of the most people that I've had, so it's been great. Thank you, Desmond, for being here. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram primarily at Independent Thought. That is the place where I'm the most active on social media. I post on my story every single day, so you can always keep up with me in the podcast that way. You can also find me on Twitter at Indie Thought. Not on there as much, but I'm occasionally on there messing around with the hooligans on Twitter. So my podcast itself is on basically every major platform. Like, whatever platform you would go to listen to podcasts, I am on that platform. Primarily Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Those are probably the two best places to find my podcast. But iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon, I'm everywhere. So all over the place now, all 50 states.
Look, and that's awesome to hear because I think I'm only in 27, but I'm getting there.
You're getting there.
Like Desmond does one thing that I really love about listening to his podcast is that it's well researched, and he absolutely talks in a way that is digestible. So it's not all these like $3 words and let me try to understand this. I have to go look these things up. No, a lot of the topics you talk about are relevant. They're digestible and they're pretty well balanced, even though he's more left leaning. But it's more of a balanced conversation about what can be done on both sides because neither side is perfect. So there's always room for improvement. So if you want to hear about some recent policy changes or some updates that you need to be on the lookout for, absolutely tune in to Independent Thought. Thank you again, Desmond. I'm going to go down the list again to try to name everybody. If I don't say your name, please don't hold it against me. Let's see. Oh, thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Y'all just, I love the love. Thank you so much. Let's see. Enjoy the show. Thank you, Mr. Desmond, for sharing so much information. I'm telling you, I'm here too. I know I'm here too. I know that I am here. You see me, right?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Johnson.
You see me. I know I'm here. I know I'm here. Oh, my aunt's here. Oh, thank you. That's my dad's sister. It's my aunt. So I just want to thank you, everyone, for being here. If I don't say your name, please just put it in the comment and I'll say it for real. Okay. Thank you, Janai. Thank you, Really TT. Thank you, Honey T. Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Auntie Lynetta. Thank you, Lynette. Did I say Janai? Janai was first. Thank you, The Doghouse, for tuning in. All of Tamara's aliases. Appreciate you. Thank you, Sean, for being here. My sister, Shonda. And I think I got everybody. Thank you, Auntie Lynetta. Thank you, Dad. And I think that is everybody. If I did not say your name, you can put it in the chat and just know that I appreciate you wholeheartedly for being here. Without you, we wouldn't go live. No, we probably would, but it wouldn't be as much fun. So thank you. Thank you very much. You can see us again on next Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. Next week is I'm really excited about. So I hope to see you all next week. Thank you.